Welcome back everybody to part 2, the mixing. We spent enough time talking about what we're mixing and why. Let's get to work. So we're making a 400 milligram loaf of flour. So we're going to start with 280 milligrams of water. To that we're going to add 40 milligrams of sourdough starter. And then we're going to mix them together. The order is important because you don't want to put the flour in before you put the sourdough starter so it can be well blended in the water. Make sure you thoroughly mix the sourdough starter with the water. Now time to add the flour. So we're going to add 400 total. In this case, we did 125 milligrams of whole wheat flour, 275 milligrams of bread flour. I apologize for the mess I made while I was working. I am not used to standing the way I was and all for the camera angle, but I think you get the idea. All in all, it'll be 400 milligrams of flour. We talked about 400 milligrams of flour plus 70% of water, plus 10% of the yeast and 2% salt. 400 is a perfect size for a small family of 2 or 3 people. After that you go to bigger. Now you need to just kind of tie it all together, sort of blend the water and the flour. As you'll notice, I'm wearing a glove. It's just because the dough is very sticky at times, particularly at this stage. It's easier to clean off my hands and get it all mixed in there properly. Once it's properly mixed, just flatten it down so that it's going to hydrate shortly. And try and get everything to touch water so that everything is hydrating. Scraping down the sides, making sure I got all the flour, the water, and then I'm going to use my knuckles and flatten it down into the box as you see. If you need to, you can add a little water to your hands, but kind of just lay it down flat. Now notice we haven't added the salt or the oil yet. Now that it's flat, we're going to just on top of the dough, we're going to add the salt, 800 milligrams. Or 2% of the flour weight. And then on top of that, we're going to add anything we want to, like toppings or things we want to mix in there. Like in this case, it's nuts. We have sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and flax seeds. And we just lay it on the top for now. Okay, this is a very important step. Now you can cover it and let it sit for 10 minutes to an hour. Doesn't matter how long, 10 minutes to an hour. After 10 minutes, it's time to either put a glove on or gloves on or not, doesn't matter. Open it up. Add a little bit of oil. This is not an exact science as far as I'm concerned, but it can get pretty oily if you're not careful. So just add a little bit of oil and now stir, mix, knead, call it whatever you want. But you want, for example, in this case, you want all the seeds to get mixed in thoroughly with the dough. You want the salt thoroughly mixed in with the dough. You want the oils mixed in with the dough. And just spend 1 to 2 minutes mixing. Do not tear it. Don't break it apart. Just mix it. Flatten it out. Fold it over. Fold, stretch, fold, stretch. You'll hear that many times when you hear other bakers talk about how they make their bread. When you're done, flatten it down, put the cover on it, and you're done for tonight. You're going to put it on the counter, and you're going to let it just sit for the night. Anywhere from 10 to 12 hours, you can just let it sit. For the purpose of the video, I added some tape so you can see what happens overnight. So these are sort of the lines at which the dough is starting off. And so when we come back to this video shortly here, you'll see how much rise you got out of that dough. Notice the ends, it's not filled in yet. It's just sort of stuck in there. 10 to 12 hours, you'll notice it's completely filled in the bottom and it's risen quite a bit. Now the dough is fairly spongy. It's not sticky as it was. I have a proofing basket. I flour the inside of the proofing basket. I strongly recommend you use these. I like these a lot. It really helps in the long run, particularly if you're going to put your dough in the refrigerator last. Notice how cleanly and easily it's coming out of there. It's still a little sticky, not a big deal. Do not add any more flour at this stage. If you need to work with sticky, get a little water on your hands, get a little water on the deck, whatever you want. Now stretch and fold. Stretch and fold. 3, 4, 5 times. You're not kneading, just a little stretching and folding. Okay? Now it's time to create sort of a tight ball. So now you want to start shaping this thing into a ball and really start stretching the top. I use the table and my knife to set up a little resistance on the table to stretch it out so that it gets real tight on the top. This helps with the spring in the oven when the time comes. You'll notice I'm not pushing it, I'm just dragging it across the board. It's picking it up. Add it to the floured bowl, the smooth side down. Either cover with a towel or put it in a plastic. I have big Ziploc bags. They fit into big Ziplocs. I don't even seal it tight. I just fold it over. And in the fridge it goes. Goes in the fridge for minimum 1 hour to 2 days. This loaf we left in the oven for in the refrigerator for 5 hours. So this is it. So let's move on to step 3. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me. We'll talk to you in a few minutes in part 3 where we get down to the fun stuff. Thank you.